Hello, my name is Kai, and in today's video, I will be giving you a complete guide to selling on Amazon FBA. I've been doing this for a little over 7 years now, so I'm going to speak to you all as if I'm speaking to a brand new client, explaining to them how we're going to grow their business from idea to sales. So let's get into the presentation. I don't want to waste any time. This may take a little bit, so be sure to grab your pens and papers and we'll go ahead and get started on the presentation. So I have put together a complete guide to selling on FBA, and what to expect is that this will be a comprehensive breakdown. No prior experience is required. I'm sure you've probably already done research and have decided that this is the route that you want to go into achieving financial freedom. This is your ticket to passive income. So this will be a blueprint for a fully automated Amazon FBA business, because I think a lot of the times what people forget to mention is that this can require a lot of work if you don't set it up to be automated. If that is your goal, if you want something that is completely passive, I will show you how you can create a fully automated business. And setting up lifelong passive income, it does take time. So in this presentation, I'm going to give you the, no BS, essentially. This is going to be everything that I have encountered, I've experienced, laid out on the table. It's actually a lot more simple than you would think. So I don't want anyone to feel intimidated. And hopefully by the end of this video, you'll feel more confident going into your own Amazon FBA business. So a little bit about me and my FBA journey. I started back in 2017 selling on eBay, and if most of you know, eBay is very similar to the Amazon FBA model. You purchase products, or you may already have products on hand, and you fulfill them to customers once you create your listing. I hated the fulfillment for eBay. I was shipping about 120 units per week, and then it just kept growing and growing, and that just became such a pain to handle in between, working a full-time job and going to school at this time. So I began to do a lot of research into more sustainable ways of selling online, and I came across Amazon FBA back in 2018. And I honestly thought it was the best idea ever. So right away, I just began doing product research. I began watching a ton of YouTube videos similar to what you're doing now. And I learned everything that I know from YouTube. So this is why I feel as though it's my turn to pay back to the YouTube community and share everything that I've experienced. Fast forward to 2019, I accidentally started my first consulting agency, and it was just through the success of selling on Amazon myself, other people began to notice and asking for help on their platforms. So one client turned into two, and two turned into five, and I just kept getting referrals. And so ever since then, I have been working with clients and helping them grow their own businesses on Amazon FBA. In 2021, fast forward to 2021, the pandemic hit. There was a lot of fear and uncertainty in this space. But as you know, the Amazon space actually began to boom even more than it had before. This was probably the best time for sellers on Amazon to be on Amazon. So we began to see a lot of aggregators pop up, a lot of startups coming out of the space, and I began to work with a lot of these companies to kind of get more understanding of how Amazon works for much larger companies. And so from 2021 until today, I've worked with several major brands on Amazon. I've worked with several aggregators and several startups in this space. So I have a wide range of understanding from the conception of creating an Amazon FBA business all the way up to managing a multi-million-dollar brand. It's very possible, just depending on what your goals are, no matter what. The most important thing is to get started. So let's get started, and that is where I am today. I am here to share all of my knowledge with you all, and I have broken it down into very simple steps. But first, I want to get into selling on Amazon. Different ways that you can sell on Amazon, and feel free to skip through this part if you kind of already have an understanding of how to do that. I am going to adjust my, there we go. So, different ways to begin selling on Amazon. You have KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing. This is originally how Amazon made its huge debut, was with books. So they've introduced a digital version of selling books online through Kindle Direct Publishing. I can do a whole separate video on how that works, but this is not the purpose of today's video, so I'll continue moving forward. Merch by Amazon. This is, think of print on demand. So Amazon has its own platform where you can upload designs onto their ready-made products such as t-shirts, bags, etc. And you can post your listing on Amazon, and once someone makes a purchase, Amazon will then apply your design to the product and ship it to the customer. So essentially this is your print on demand Amazon model. Next, we have wholesaling. This is something that I know a lot of people are also interested in. If you've come across selling on Amazon at any point in time, you've probably heard of wholesaling. And what wholesaling is you purchase products in bulk from an authorized supplier or seller, wholesaler. These are usually household products. So think of your toilet papers, your condiments, your first aid products, first aid kit. These are companies that have allowed multiple sellers to sell their items. So the trick here is being able to purchase these items at a wholesale price so that you can then turn around and sell it on Amazon. You are competing with other sellers in the buy box. However, if you purchase the product at a good enough price, or if you purchase enough in bulk, you'll be able to compete with these sellers and win a large share of the customers that are shopping for these products millions and millions of times per day. And I also would be more than happy to do a separate video on this. I have coached a few clients through wholesaling. It's a very viable Amazon business, and I will say it requires a little more hands-on work, but it can be completely automated as well, and you can definitely turn it into a form of passive income. The next we have FBM and FBA. So FBM is you doing the fulfillment for fulfillment by merchant. That's what it stands for. This was very similar to the eBay model that I mentioned earlier in the video. I personally did not enjoy doing, packing and shipping myself. I easily could have hired someone, which is eventually what we ended up doing. However, I prefer the FBA model because not only do you get the privilege of having the Prime badge, you also don't have to worry about fulfillment for any of your orders, which allows you to focus mainly on other parts of the business that don't require so much time. Amazon will do all the fulfillment for you. It does come at a fee, but in future courses or future videos, I'll show you exactly how to break down that fee to make sure that you're selling a product that is profitable enough to participate in FBA. So for the purpose of this video, we're going to go deeper into what fulfillment by Amazon is and how you can get started. All right, so common questions that people have when selling on Amazon FBA are: how does Amazon even work? And for this, I am going to give a brief overview of the Amazon FBA A9 algorithm. What the A9 algorithm is a way for customers to accurately find products on Amazon. So Amazon ranks products based on relevancy, on how relevant is your product to what the customer is searching for. So the whole Amazon experience begins with keywords. Everything, keywords are so important on Amazon. When a customer types a keyword into the search bar, Amazon is running a million and billions of algorithmic data points to find products that are most relevant to what the customer wants to purchase, because ultimately the goal is to make that purchase. Amazon doesn't want products that are irrelevant to what the customer is searching for, because that means that it won't result in a sale. And the whole purpose of Amazon is it's a purchasing platform. So Amazon wants to make it as easy as possible for the customer to make that purchase. So what the A9 algorithm is, it's just a bunch of inputs such as keywords, images, product description, etc. And I'll get into what all those components are to make sure that your product is relevant and to make sure that you are gaining as much click share as possible. What is the best strategy for success? In my experience, the best strategy is building an omnipresent brand. This goes beyond what a lot of people's goals are for Amazon FBA, but essentially what this means is that if this is a business that you want to create as, your form of passive income, you want to make sure that this brand is not only present on Amazon, but also in other areas such as Shopify. You want to make sure that your brand has a website. You want to make sure that your brand has image on social media. So whether that's TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, you just want to make sure that your brand can be found anywhere that customers could possibly searching for any sort of review on your products or any sort of brand image outside of Amazon. This isn't as common as you would find brands that are popping up on Instagram, because on Amazon, it's a selling platform. So customers come there to buy, not necessarily to socialize, not quite yet. I will be getting to that later in the video. So if you are able to stick around for the bonus, I have a few bonus tips related to that. Building a community is going to help you with Amazon FBA, getting a leg up. A lot of sellers are not doing this because they are so used to the old way of selling on Amazon, which is to just basically white label a product, put it on Amazon, and just let the reviews roll in and the sales come after. They don't necessarily spend time outside of building the product and putting it on Amazon. So one thing that will set you apart and is a great strategy for success is to build a community around your brand or your product. Mind you, this will be very different if you were wholesaling, but this, like I mentioned, is for Amazon FBA. This is how I have seen brands become very successful from the start on Amazon. And also the importance of a strong foundation. I'm going to get into that more into this video, so you'll be able to build a strong brand from the very beginning so that you can set yourself up for success. What is a realistic budget? Now, this all depends on the product that you purchase in the beginning. So product research is one of the most important steps in this, and I'll go into details of what that will look like. A realistic budget is hard to say. I've started brands with $1,500 minus the advertising budget. I've started brands with $5,000, including the advertising budget. I've started brands with less than, $2,000, less than $1,000. But I will say a realistic budget is to make sure that you've saved enough money to where you have the funds to go all in with this brand, with your Amazon FBA business. And if you've been doing research, you'll find anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 as a realistic budget. What I did personally when I got started was I was working a full-time job. I was in college. I put aside a savings account where I said to myself, once I get $3,000 in this account, it did take me a long time to save up that amount of money. But once I had that money in an account, it was solely for my venture into Amazon FBA. And I found that that was more than enough for me to get started because of the amount of research that I did and the time that I took to find a right product that made me a return on my investment pretty quickly into Amazon FBA. So what is a realistic budget? First things first is how much can you save up in whatever amount of time that you're planning to. If you already have the funds, that's even better. And again, it all depends on the product that you decide to sell, and I'll show you why in the next few slides. How much time do I have to commit to this? This is one of those things where once you set it and you've done the legwork, you don't have to do much else beyond that. When it comes to growing the business, you will have to put in a little more time. But again, this is very similar to what is a realistic budget. And I say this because it all comes down to what are your goals? How soon would you want to launch your product? And based on that, you kind of work backwards in terms of how much time do I have to commit to this. But again, my goal is to allow you to create this business, to set it up, to build a solid foundation so that you can then automate each step of the process. And I'll show you how to do that so that you don't have to spend time beyond building the foundation and creating a well-generated machine. That is my goal. So hopefully I help you achieve that. Long answer short, I don't know if that made any sense, but to summarize the answer to that question is once you've set it up, you can spend as little as no time on growing your business, on managing your business, because the goal is to create as many efficiencies and processes, systems and processes as possible to create this passive income. How soon can I quit my day job? Me personally, I did it in about 8 months, but this was with a plan in place. This was after beginning my Amazon FBA journey. This was also at the same time when I accidentally became a consultant. So I had a plan to completely replace my income at the time. And through Amazon FBA, I was able to do that within 8 months. My business replaced my job. You may have different goals depending on your life circumstances, but it all starts with setting the goal and then working backwards and then putting in the work in order to achieve that goal. I've spent a lot of time on this, so let's move forward. Okay, Seller Central overview. It's not as intimidating as it looks. So the first thing that I want to kind of run through is the actual platform that you'll be using to sell on Amazon FBA. So first thing is signing up on Amazon Seller Central, creating a Seller Central account. The dashboard is pretty self-explanatory. There is a Seller Central University that I encourage you to spend a little bit of time on. However, in future videos, if possible, I'll be going through the dashboard and kind of showing you different tips and tricks on how to make the experience much better for yourself. Seller support and troubleshooting will be your best friend. Anytime in the past when I've been working with clients, they've had an issue, if they decided to self-manage their account, I always directed them to reach out to seller support. If you ask any Amazon FBA seller, this is their least favorite thing to do, because as you begin selling on Amazon, you'll realize that seller support is a little time consuming, or sometimes they don't understand what the issue is. The whole point with this is to continue to explain what your issue is. I recommend just calling them. Getting them on the phone is the quickest way to get any issue resolved with your Amazon FBA account. If you prefer to just send emails, it's a very possible way too, but I recommend just giving them a call, explaining whatever your issue is, even if it's as simple as how do I put a label on my product. Calling seller support will get you that answer. They can also help you with a lot of things where if you felt as though you've hit a roadblock, seller support will be able to help you out with that. Keep in mind that there are fees to selling on Amazon FBA. As I mentioned, you have your referral fee, which is typically, depending on the category, 15% of the revenue of the product. So whatever your list price is, take 15% of that, and that will automatically be considered your referral fee. And then you also have your FBA fees, which includes storage and for the picking and shipping fee, which is usually a lot less than your referral fee. All of those fees combined are considered Amazon fees. Brand registry is something that you would get into in a more advanced part of your journey on Amazon FBA. This is once you've created a brand and you wanted to protect that brand on Amazon, aka not allowing other people to come in and sell your exact product because they see how successful you've been selling. Brand registry would allow you to basically protect your brand on Amazon via trademark. So you would have to file for a trademark, which can take anywhere from 6 months to a year, depending on how you go about that process. But brand registry becomes really important once you begin to grow your brand and competition becomes something serious. But also, brand registry gives you the ability to get more creative on Amazon, offering things such as what you might have noticed with other products that looks kind of like a magazine spread underneath the product detail page. You can also build somewhat of a store website on Amazon. They're called storefronts. Brand registry not only protects your brand on Amazon, but it also gives you the ability to create more of a presence for your brand on Amazon. Tools for Amazon FBA. I like to never reinvent the wheel. So if there are services out there that make my life easier, I'm going to utilize them, and I'm going to advise that my clients utilize them as well. Using services like ChatGPT has been a game changer in this space. Even prior to ChatGPT, I was making this process as easy as possible by utilizing other tools that were available to me, such as Keepa. If you're not familiar with Keepa, I would look into it. It's a great tool for product research. It's a great tool to just keep track of product performance within Amazon. It's a great tool to look at competitors. Then we have Helium 10, which is very similar to Keepa. It's great for product research. It's also great for keyword research as well. Jungle Scout is another great platform, a great tool for product research, for product launches, etc. And then we have Fiverr. So going back to using ChatGPT and combining it with Fiverr, I like to say if it's not something that you enjoy doing, outsource it, freelance it, hire someone to do the parts that seem intimidating or seem time consuming or you don't have that much interest in doing. I'm a firm believer in outsourcing because I like to find people who are really, really good at what they do and spend more time on the things that I'm good at. So I began to mention that prior to ChatGPT, things that I was doing were using Amazon to basically create my product listings, to create the descriptions, to find keywords. I used what was already available to me in order to create the perfect product listing. And using Amazon as your go-to product research tool is so crucial because when it comes to creating descriptions, titles, bullets, keywords, you can look at competitors and see what is already working for them and kind of mimic or recreate what's already working. So the main point out of this is that you don't have to do it all alone. Use the tools that are available to you. Everybody's doing it, so don't feel as though you are cheating or as though you are, getting ahead of everyone, but because that's not the case at all. We're moving towards a time where it's even easier to get on Amazon FBA than it has ever been before. It's not going anywhere. People are just going to continue to create new products. They're going to continue to create new listings, and they're going to use the help of services such as ChatGPT or use other listings that are already on Amazon, or even creating a fully automated team on platforms such as Fiverr, which I have seen done in the past before as well. So now let's get into the actual process of getting started with Amazon FBA. All of those slides prior to this here were just getting you familiar with how you're going to get started with Amazon and a little bit more about the platform and how it works. So the first thing that I mentioned that is so important is product research. Everything comes back to this because if you don't pick the right product, then you won't make sales. And the whole point is to make sales so that you can then create passive income, etc., etc. So my first go-to is always to use freelancers on Fiverr. If you don't have a background in product research, you can watch several videos on YouTube on how to do that. However, if you are on a much shorter timeline and if you would just like to get started, I recommend knowing how the process is done. However, you can hire freelancers on Fiverr anywhere from, $60 to $100, depending on how many products you'd like for them to search for. What's important is choosing the right category for not only for yourself, but also just in general. You want to stick to, there are several parameters, so I'm not going to give you all of them here. However, you just want to make sure that the product that you are potentially going to sell is something that you can afford first and foremost to source. It's something that doesn't require a lot of bells and whistles, because you want to be thinking, when the customer receives this, am I going to be receiving a lot of complaints about this component not working? Are there a lot of moving parts? Is it electric? Is it liquid? Like, you want to think of these sort of things. So you kind of want to stick to products that are very minimal in design, things that don't have too many moving parts, preferably things that don't require electricity. There are just several nuances. And again, I encourage you to look specifically for product research videos here on YouTube so that you can make sure that you're choosing the right product, which is the most important part of this process. Next, we have the importance of personal research. So let's say that you did go with the Fiverr route and you decided to hire a freelancer. There are so many great ones out there, and what they'll do is they'll provide you several products. They'll show you why this product is viable to sell, and they'll also sometimes go even further depending on the service that you have selected. I recommend going on Fiverr and searching product research for Amazon, browsing around, reading the reviews, and finding a freelancer that works for you. They'll also provide you with suppliers, and sometimes they'll go even further and provide you with a script to reach out to those suppliers with, to go ahead and get that sourcing piece of the process started. But it's important to do personal research when hiring a freelancer, or if you're doing this on your own. You want to double, triple check the numbers. You want to create a system where eventually one day the goal is, for some people, they want to build a brand on Amazon, which means adding several products over time. So you want to build a system from the very start that allows you to accurately vet a product. So this means looking at the competitors for yourself, seeing that the competitors are either newer into the space, so you're not competing with an overly saturated market. This is a term that I don't like to use often, overly saturated, because this is what stops people from even getting started. They believe that selling on Amazon is a saturated market, so they just don't even try. But that's not the case, because there are new products popping up every day. There are new categories popping up every day. There are new things that people are into every single day, new hobbies, etc. But one thing that's very, very important in this part is to make sure that you're not buying into a trend. And there are several ways that you can decipher this. First of all, is this a product that you can see people purchasing over and over again in the future? Is this a product that is something that, regardless of the time, for example, the famous garlic press, that was something that many sellers saw as a product that people would be needing well into the future, and that was the case. Whereas fidget spinners is a popular example of a trend. You can do some external research on whether or not a product is a trend. You can even simply just Google, is this a trend, etc. You can also use tools such as Google Trends, I believe it's what it's called. I'm not sure, but using your resources to decipher whether or not a product is a trend is very, very important, because you don't want to go through the whole process just to have the trend die out and now you're stuck with several units of inventory. This rarely happens, but if you do your product research correctly, you won't have to worry about this at all. And lastly, double, triple checking your potential product against all of the metrics that I mentioned. In later videos, I will be diving much, much deeper into product research because there's a science to it, and I've done it several times. So I've learned from mistakes very early on, and I would love to share, exactly how that process is done. But if you're just getting started, I recommend using Fiverr. Product sourcing and vetting. Do not skip this step. What this means is that once you found the products, 2 or 3 products from your product research that seem really, really good, the numbers look good, the potential looks really good, the market is not overly saturated, the upside, the search volume is very high. So this means that over time, more and more customers will be searching for these items. You've established those products. Next steps is to source the product, but then to also vet the product. So as I mentioned, if you do go the freelancer route, they will typically provide you with a list of suppliers. However, if you have to do this step yourself, I recommend going to Alibaba.com, AliExpress.com, Googling or using ChatGPT to find other wholesale suppliers of the product that you're potentially going to source, and begin communicating with suppliers. Back then, this used to be done with templates. People used to say, "Oh, I need to know how to talk to a supplier." But essentially, the most important questions that you want to ask when finding suppliers for your products are: what is their minimum order quantity? MOQ is what it stands is the acronym for that. MOQ stands for minimum order quantity, and this is essentially how many units do I have to purchase with you before. That's first things first, because let's say the product sources for about $5 per unit. If your budget is only $3,000 and their minimum order quantity is 1,000 units, that has already gone way over your budget. So then it's now on to the next supplier. I don't recommend giving up on a product because you can't find a supplier that has an MOQ that fits your budget. However, I do recommend continuously looking for suppliers to negotiate with, because you can negotiate, and I highly recommend negotiating every single time with suppliers because there's always space for more. So MOQ, what is your MOQ? And then checking to see if they offer the product in different variations, because you want to make sure that as you grow your business, you can offer your customers more variations, and it's just better to get it from the same supplier rather than having to go to several different suppliers for the same product, because then you run into issues of quality and that sort of thing. A lot of people like to use sourcing agents for this step. However, I've done this process on my own several times, which a sourcing agent is just the middleman between you and the supplier. So you tell your sourcing agent what you want, and then they go out and find the suppliers for you. You essentially can act as your own sourcing agent by reaching out directly to these suppliers. Make sure that you look at their reviews. You want to look at their trade assurance, making sure that they have that, especially if you're shopping through Alibaba. You want to take a look at their years of experience, all of those good things. Think of it as shopping for your own product on Amazon, but from the source. Lastly, when dealing with sourcing and vetting, you want to make sure that you order samples. Let's say you've started with 3 products that you found through your product research. You then found your 3 different suppliers for each of those products. So that is 2 to 3 suppliers per product. After you've gone back and forth for a few days with those suppliers for each of those products, you can kind of dwindle it down and say, okay, maybe I don't want to go with product number 3 that I found in my product research, but I do want to go with product 1 and 2. So what you'll do is you'll purchase samples of product 1 and 2 from the suppliers that you found, because you want to make sure that the product is what they say it is before you purchase 1,000+ units of this product to sell on Amazon. So what you'll do is you'll order samples, you'll test the product yourself. You want to check to see and make sure that there are no patents or trademarks on the product. Typically, if you're getting it for Amazon or from China or from one of these sourcing websites, there really isn't a patent on there because they would have been taken down already. But you want to make sure you do that research yourself. And then only after you've done that, after you've placed your sample order, is when you'll go ahead and reach back out to the supplier and say, hey, everything looks good. Let's go ahead and make our first official purchase. But there are a few steps in the meanwhile that you'll be doing while you're going back and forth with the supplier to finalize your product, because what they'll be asking you is, do you have a logo? Do you have a brand? Do you have packaging? And so what we'll do in the next step, which is called branding, and again, I highly recommend using freelancers for this unless you enjoy digital designing, unless you enjoy digital art. I would say to go on Fiverr and you could type in, packaging design for Amazon, label design, logo design, branding for Amazon. Those sort of keywords will allow you to find freelancers on Fiverr or Upwork. I haven't mentioned Upwork, but it's very similar to Fiverr. A little more expensive. However, you can find very great freelancers on there that can essentially build your whole Amazon brand for you. What you're looking for is, if you're planning on making this something much bigger than Amazon, you want to start with your brand identity. This typically starts with a brand guide or some sort of booklet or presentation that shows you exactly how your logos will look across the board. This will include packaging, guidelines, and those sort of things. This is where you want to come up with the logo. Don't spend too much time here unless you've already thought of a brand that you want to build in the future. This is where a lot of people get caught up on. But again, if you have the name, if you have the idea, the concept, if you have a category, etc., you can kind of take all this information to any freelancer, any graphic designer and say, hey, build me a brand identity using these guidelines, essentially. So next, you can also use freelancers to build product labels. So let's say that you're selling a particular item on Amazon and your supplier is asking you if you'd like to customize the labeling on the product, if that is applicable to you. You can also customize the packaging. And one thing I do recommend doing from the very beginning is including product inserts in your products. Product inserts are a great way to get customers to directly leave a review for your product. You can make them as pretty or as generic as you'd like. But essentially what I've done in the past is I've created a QR code that leads customers directly to my review page where they can just scan the product insert and leave a review. There are some guidelines on this, so you want to make sure that you're following Amazon's terms of service. You cannot directly ask for a 5-star review. However, you can ask customers to leave, a review of their experience with your product and then provide them with that direct link to leave reviews. This is a great way to help customers remember that reviews are very, very important on Amazon. So with product inserts, you can not only request for those reviews according to Amazon's terms of service, but you can also provide other marketing material, such as links to your website. You can also add a link tree if that's something that you're interested in. But again, these are a lot of things that I would include from the very beginning. And the reason why I went for a QR code was because I can always build upon that QR code without making any changes to my product inserts that are already being printed by my suppliers. So as I mentioned, a lot of this can be done simultaneously while you are searching for suppliers, finalizing your suppliers, because let's say product 1 and 2, you've purchased samples, but you've decided to only go with product 1. And with product 1, you can now begin to create a brand identity, brand logo, brand style guide, etc. through using the freelancers. So the way this would look is you start with 3 products that you've resulted from your product research. You then begin the supplier search and you've dwindled it down to now 2 products. You've then ordered your samples and now you've dwindled it down to 1 product that you would like to start with. So now with that 1 product, you are then going through with the branding of that 1 product. So this is you're getting photos from the supplier, sending them to your freelancer, or doing the work yourself and creating logo, etc., so that you can then share with your supplier and say, hey, print this design on the box, print this design on the product insert. Because essentially what you want to do is have your supplier ship everything from their warehouse directly to the Amazon warehouse. So the products never actually come into your hands, but this is why ordering samples are so important, so you know what it is that your customers will be receiving at the end of all of this. Next, we have listing creation. And with listing creation, this comes after branding, after supplying, after product research, and after creating your account on Amazon Seller Central. I went backwards there. So now we're going forward. You've created your Amazon Seller Central account. You've done your product research. You've dwindled it down to 2. You've found suppliers, then you've dwindled it down to 1. And you already gotten all of your design assets. Now it's time to create your listing. How to do this is you can use tools that I mentioned earlier, such as Helium 10 is a great way to find keywords. I will probably have to do a whole other video on how that platform works because it's a very powerful tool to use. However, if you kind of want to step back a little bit from this, you can again use freelancers. I've used freelancers in the past just to see how they work because listing creation is actually one of my favorite parts of selling on Amazon. But I've hired freelancers in the past. I've worked with a few of them with my clients. What they can do for you is they can create based on whatever information you have from your supplier, whatever information you have from competitors. They'll create your titles, your bullets, your description, your keywords, and your listing photos. And again, this is so important because with the A9 algorithm, this is how you're going to be found. When a customer types in anything remotely similar to your product, you want to make sure that those keywords are included somewhere in your listing. So with the freelancers, they are able to take your product, they'll find competitors, and these are all things you can do yourself as well. With a little bit of research on YouTube, you'll be able to be creating listings like a pro in no time. However, the other option would be to get someone else to do it. What they'll do is they'll find competitors, and then from there, they will see what's already working. They will also see what is the search results or the search volume for certain keywords. What are customers already searching for? Those keywords will be included in your listing creation. And once you've received your titles, bullets, description, keywords, etc., you want to then input them into your Seller Central account under adding a product, creating your listing. And there is another step there, and I will get into that on the next slide, I believe. However, one other note here under listing creation is your listing photos. I should have actually probably separated that on its own because those are so important. Just think of yourself as a customer. When you go to Amazon, you open the app, you type in a keyword, you then look at the photos. So the first photo is the most important photo of your listing. However, it has specific guidelines like everything else with Amazon. It must be on an all white background. Sometimes you'll see people including like certain vectors on theirs. However, you want to see how you can differentiate your product among all those competitors who also have their product on a white background. And there are so many ways you can do this. For example, you can position the product a little differently, something that's a little more appealing to customers because you have very few seconds to capture that customer into clicking on your product. Typically, what customers look for first are the photos, and then they look at the reviews. And we'll get into that later in the video. However, you want to make sure that you are selecting product images that give customers answers to the questions that they're looking for right off the bat. Because let's say they do click your image and then now they're swiping through your product listing photos and they're like, is this what I'm looking for? They're looking for relevant products. So you want to make sure that you give them relevant information. If someone's looking for a garlic press, for example, what are the 5 main things that they want to know about a garlic press? You include those 5 main things in your listing photos. You want anywhere from 7 to 9 listing photos. I typically like to do 7 photos, and then on the last 2, I like to include video. So again, this is something that you can outsource, and I recommend doing that in the beginning and building some form of system for yourself so that when you're ready to introduce additional products, you know exactly how to do that. Shipping inventory. So let's say after you have finalized your product with your supplier, you've sent them your branding. So your product is now having a very cute logo on it. You have your product insert for customers to find you and leave a review. Your product has been created, packed, and is ready to ship from your supplier's warehouse to Amazon FBA. What you'll have to do is create an Amazon shipment through the Seller Central platform. Prior to this, you will need to purchase UPC codes. So these are specifically from the gs1.org, and I did not include that in here. However, when you do come to this point, you want to make sure that it's required to create your listing, so it actually would be under the listing creation phase. However, you'll need UPC codes that you can only purchase from gs1.org, I believe, because they are the only ones that Amazon recognizes as UPC providers. What a UPC code is, that a UPC barcode is essentially a code that is a unique identifier to your product. So anywhere you go, even if it's in retail, anyone can scan that UPC code and know exactly what that product is at any point in time. And this is how Amazon identifies your product. You can also ask for a GTIN exemption. However, I don't recommend this, especially because if you plan on growing your brand, a UPC is just a very easy way to do that. A lot of this will make sense once you do get to this step of shipping and creating your product listings. However, once you've created your listing, using your UPC code that you've gotten from GS1, you may run into approval issues, but again, that's where troubleshooting with seller support comes in handy. And if you have trouble with that step, please leave a comment down below and I will be happy to help you there. So, shipping directly from your supplier versus shipping from your home. I know a lot of people are like, wait, but I learned that, the products come to me first. Well, yeah, it can. You can ship 1,000 units to your house, but then you'll just have to pay extra fees in order to then ship those products to Amazon FBA. So I recommend doing everything from your supplier. So you do have to make sure that you provide them with those barcodes so that they can print each barcode onto your product packaging. And once that's done and shipped to Amazon, Amazon will just scan the barcode and automatically know that they have received your products. So that is how Amazon is able to identify your product among all of the other products that are being sold on the platform. Also keep in mind with this step, your lead time for future shipments. So how long did it take your supplier to create 1,000 units? And how long did it take for it to ship from their warehouse to Amazon? Your supplier may mention, different forms of shipping. Choose the one that's best for you. In the beginning, I always recommend going with the slower option, which is typically the shipping by sea versus shipping by air, because that can be almost sometimes 4 times the amount as shipping by sea. So whatever is most cost effective for you in the beginning, and then over time, as you build revenue, you can then have your products shipped by air, which would make them come a lot quicker. However, starting out, we want to do everything as cost effectively as possible. Yes, it will take a little bit longer, but it'll be worth it in the long run. Next, we have your product launch. So once you've gone through all of those steps of the process, you are now ready to launch your Amazon FBA product. So this means that your products have been shipped into Amazon, they've been checked in, and your product is now live. You want to understand your bestseller ranking. This is a great metric. So BSR is a great metric to understanding where your product ranks among all of the others in your category. This is one metric that you can monitor over time, and this is a great way to know whether or not you're improving in terms of selling on Amazon. You can see this using tools such as Helium 10 or Keepa. Sometimes you can just even go on Amazon and scroll all the way to the bottom, and you can see exactly where you're ranked in your category. Keeping track of that over time will give you a really good idea of how your listing is doing among the competitors. Sometimes you'll find that you'll have to adjust the pricing, and it's just because, let's say, from the time that you selected your product through the product research step, you're now launched and live, and a few of your competitors have possibly lowered their pricing. This doesn't happen often, especially if you've identified a product that wasn't a trend. If your product is not a trend, you will rarely see that competitors have lowered their prices significantly or anything that would cause any sort of alarms. So you just want to make sure at this point, because so much time has passed, that your pricing is competitive and that you're happy with it and it makes sense for the category, for the product, etc. Next, you can get into things such as Amazon PPC. I always launch with the PPC strategy. This is a little more advanced, so this is going to be something that I probably mention in a later video, but Amazon PPC is so crucial to your launch because you can target specific keywords that even without reviews, you can compete with competitors on. Product inserts are so important, and again, I mentioned this in your product listing phase, I believe, or the branding. It was in the branding phase. So product inserts that you've sent to your supplier that they've included in your product have let customers know to leave reviews for your product, and making it as seamless as possible. I again recommend going with the QR code so they can just scan and click, and customers will then be able to leave a review for your product. I think product inserts are very important. So now that you've created all of those and you've double checked all of that, your product is launched. And next we have after the launch. What do I do after I've launched my product? I've done all this work and I've recorded what I've done so that I can then go back and repeat the process so that I can then automate it. What do I do? Next, we have reviews. Reviews are so important to increasing the sales velocity on your listing. So how do I get them right away? A lot of people struggle with this step. They say, I've gone through the whole process. I've listed my listing. It's live on Amazon. I'm not getting any sales. First things first, did you have a product insert? For those customers that do end up purchasing your product, do they have a way of leaving a review? Next, I always recommend having a backup plan. And what this is finding ways to getting reviews without violating the terms of service. There are several ways that you can do this. So one that I recommend is building a friends and family list. These are people that are essentially twice removed from your household, is what I like to call it. So these are coworkers, these are friends, these are people that you trust that can purchase your product for you, that are willing and able to. If you want to keep it a little more hush-hush, there are certain ways, certain services out there that you can sign up for that will allow other people to come and leave an honest review of your product. But I like to start with friends and family first. You can ask for them to purchase your product, whatever that looks like for you, if you know what I mean. But you can have them purchase your product and then leave a review, and that'll kind of help jumpstart your listing and getting it in front of more eyeballs. Because this process, accompanied with your Amazon PPC strategy, you'll begin to notice that as you get more reviews, you get more impressions, and as you get more impressions, you get more clicks. And if you've built your listing to be as relevant as possible, you'll see that more and more customers will begin to purchase your product. So I would start building a friends and family list from now. Think of people who Amazon essentially cannot connect them to you in any way, and they do this via IP address. So I wouldn't recommend your spouse, I wouldn't recommend your children or anyone who has access to your Amazon account. However, I do recommend, like I mentioned, coworkers. I recommend friends that live in other states, family members that live in other states, people who can find your product on Amazon. One advanced strategy that I'll give here is if you have them type in a relevant keyword for your product that you want to be ranked for, such as, garlic press for the kitchen, something like that. Just an example. Have them type that in and search for your product and show them what your product looks like so they can then click on your product and begin to jumpstart that algorithm. And again, making sure that you're doing everything according to Amazon's TOS. So you'll have to do a little research there. And then, as I mentioned, alternative methods. There are programs and companies and tools out there where you can sign up for. And essentially what you do is you share your Amazon listing and customers will then begin to purchase your product. You can offer a promotional code, some sort of discount for that. But again, make sure that you're doing this according to the rules. And let's say that you were to get a bad review, there are ways that you can request for Amazon to review a bad review. If it violates Amazon terms of service, it can automatically be removed. For example, any usage of profanity, if it is regarding the shipping because it's Amazon FBA that has nothing to do with the product, that is also a very viable way to get the product review removed. However, if you're unable to get the review removed, this is sometimes a huge bottleneck for a few sellers. However, whatever the customer is addressing, you want to make sure you take it into account and include it in your listing description, include it in your title, include it somewhere where customers can see, hey, we've acknowledged this review and we've improved our product accordingly. Or acknowledging something that a customer may not have known before is a great way. A great way to do that would be through your above the fold listing qualities, such as the product listing images, the title, the bullets, the description, etc. Alrighty, so now you have a fully functioning Amazon account business, Amazon FBA business. You're getting, 10, 20 sales a day, your business is growing, it's almost time for you to create your next shipment from your suppliers, purchase your next order, whatever the case is. At what point do you delegate? I like to delegate right away. But again, this is one of those things where you have to build a goal for yourself. And once you achieve it, you can then go ahead and begin, for example, hiring more freelancers to run your business, hiring a virtual assistant, which I highly recommend because they're so useful, specifically one who is well versed in Amazon FBA. You can have them check in on your account monthly, weekly, daily, depending on at what point you are. This VA can manage your entire business for you, but you always want to know each step of the process just in case anything goes wrong or just in case the VA is not available to work for that day or that week, whatever the case is. You want to make sure that you know how to run your own business before delegating or outsourcing any of the tasks. VAs can be found via Fiverr. I've found a lot via Upwork. What I like to do is kind of work with them for a few months and see how they do, but then kind of transition them off the platform and transition them into a full-time employee of mine or a full-time freelancer, full-time virtual assistant, whatever you want to call it. You want to check your account frequently, and this is as simple as downloading the app so you can kind of just have a good idea, general idea of how sales are going, when you need to reorder, re-up your products, whatever the case is, and then what to do when sales are low. This is when you probably need to check on your PPC strategy and see if you are targeting relevant keywords for your product. This is where you probably need to start checking into your pricing strategy. Have competitors lowered their pricing? Are they offering some sort of discount? Are my images not updated enough? Is there something else that customers are looking for? Why am I not getting the impressions and the clicks that I was getting before? Or why am I not getting those yet? You want to look at everything such as your reviews, your PPC campaigns, etc. And then one great thing for delegation is you can hire a VA who can then potentially forecast for you. And if you prefer, you can do this process yourself. Essentially, what this looks like is once you've reached a certain amount of sales, you know that you then need to purchase X amount of inventory. And it won't be the same amount each time. And this is why forecasting for Amazon is so important. Let's say your first shipment or your first order from your supplier was 1,000 units, but then you sold through that within record time, and now you need to go ahead and purchase maybe 3,000 units so that you can have more time. But again, this does require a larger investment. So this all goes back to making sure that you are keeping track of your expenses, keeping track of your spending, keeping track of how much revenue you're bringing in and how much you're profiting after all of this is said and done. This business only works if you're really organized. So you want to make sure that you're keeping track of everything that you do. Just like with any business that you start, if you do drop shipping, if you do wholesaling, any sort of online business that you do, you want to make sure that you're keeping track of all of these things that I just mentioned. Alrighty, so this was a lot longer than I expected, but if you stuck around to this part of the video, I have some bonuses for you. So if you want to take your business to the next level and you want to stand out on Amazon, I highly recommend incorporating video anywhere you can, because video is the next wave. This looks like adding video to your product's listing. This looks like when interacting with friends and family, having them leave reviews that incorporate video or even photo of the product, because customers love to see the product in action. You can do this yourself by adding those videos that I mentioned to your product listing. And then even going beyond Amazon, if you decide to create a social media page for this, or if you decide to create a web page for your product and your brand, you want to start taking as much video of that as possible, maybe even enlisting other people to create those videos for you. But anywhere you can create or incorporate video for your Amazon FBA brand, I recommend doing that. Especially once you've gotten to brand registry, which is after receiving a trademark, you can then incorporate a lot more video in your product listings. And then going beyond Amazon and building a brand. So this looks like going and building social media for your product, and building the brand website, getting influencers to incorporate your product in their posts, and then getting affiliates. Obviously, a lot of this takes a lot of setting up, a lot of work to do, but again, any sort of business model that you enter online that involves selling product, you're going to go through these steps anyway. Amazon is just one great way to get started, because the platform is designed for people who are shopping. So you don't have to go the extra mile of creating specific ads similar to the dropshipping model that you would have to do. And dropshipping has its benefits as well, and I can definitely make several videos on dropshipping. However, again, this video is for those of you who have already decided that Amazon FBA is the way to go. So, going beyond Amazon, once you've already built your brand on there, would be the next steps. And by this point, you'll already have a leg up to those who started out dropshipping, because you already have revenue coming in from Amazon. This will just be an added bonus. And lastly, once you've done all of that, you can then rinse and repeat your business strategy that you've applied to this Amazon FBA business. Once you've found a product that works, and once you've created your well-oiled machine, you can then start seeing the revenues coming in. And once you've reached a certain threshold or a certain point, which I've reached several times with several clients, including my own brands, I began to add variations. So this looks like maybe, extra large garlic press or extra small garlic press. Those sort of things. You can add different colors, blue, green, red. And again, this is why it was important to choose a supplier that already offers these sort of variations so that in the future you can offer them under your brand. Let's say you add variations, you already have your branding. So it's so simple to incorporate another variant of the product. And the way that you know that you're ready for this is when customers start asking, like, hey, do you have this in red? Hey, I wish I saw this in blue. Or, hey, I wish I had a smaller one. You can kind of take note of what your customers are saying. You can also take note of what your competitors are doing. So if you want to incorporate variations and you're not sure where to start, a great way to start is looking at your competitors. Expanding your catalog. So let's say, you're not necessarily interested in doing a variation, but you're interested in adding, who knows, a ladle to your mix. You're building a brand, so you can add several products that fit under that brand, under that category, that hopefully your suppliers already offer. If not, you'll just begin the product research process all over again and going through that steps. I will say, even though your supplier offers a certain product, you still want to make sure that it's viable for selling on Amazon. So either way, you'll have to go back through that product researching process each and every time that you add a product to your catalog. And then another way to scale is to offer bundles of products. So let's say you have 2 products in your catalog that you have noticed that people are purchasing together over and over. Another great offer would be to bundle those. And you can do this virtually through Amazon, but again, you'll have to have brand registry and those sort of things. But these are just some ways that you can scale your business. And once you get to this point, I'm hoping that you'll revisit this video to kind of get an understanding of how to go through the process. Or I'm hoping that you look for other videos to show you how to do that, because again, that's once you've gotten started, that's once you've grown from, a tiny, tiny little seed to where you are now. I hope this video helps someone out there. I know there were a lot of things that I could have gone into a lot deeper. That would have made the video maybe 4 hours long. But if you have any questions, please reach out to me or please comment down below. I would love to help you guys out any way that I can, because this was one way that really helped me build financial freedom for myself. I've been doing it for over 7 years now. I've done a lot. I've seen a lot. I've failed a lot, but I've also grown a lot. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope this helps someone out. Please let me know down below.